GM. GM. So, today is Monday, 20th of May, 2024. We've had the weekly close, which is yet another weekly close above our highest ever weekly previously in the previous bull market, which was around 65.5. What's important about this is that it breaks a streak of 4 weeks in a row of closing below that level, closing back above it. You also look on the monthly for a bit of higher time frame view, as Professor Ayush and me talked about on last night's crossover stream. You have the highest monthly close, which is around 61, which Bitcoin closed above in March. It then actually closed below it in April, and this month is bouncing back nicely to set up a consolidation or a continuation. So looks good on all time frames, really, from the monthly down to the weekly and then down to the daily where we're at here. Just some nice consolidation at the highs. Looking at the bands, I think this is most likely to either continue higher or to consolidate at the bands before continuation higher. I would expect one of those two. Maybe the bands catch up, maybe it goes straight away. Outside of that, Bitcoin on the low time frames reclaim the 1 hour 50 EMA. So my expectation from here would be that we probably consolidate and then push higher. I mentioned this last night or yesterday about how Bitcoin, if it holds the 1 hour 50 EMA, it's bullish. It lost it, which would have attracted a lot of shorts, a lot of people stopping out of their positions and dumping. It then reclaimed it, tried to sell off and reclaimed it again. So I think Bitcoin from here is actually more likely to continue straight up. But the actual trigger for that, because it's chopping around, right? It's not like, for example, it's not like this, where you get a clean touch of the 50 EMA and boom, away it goes. It's much more of a choppy setup. So this also can easily lead to a rollover going lower, back down towards that 65k support. So I personally wouldn't take trades on that, and I'll break down the exact trades I'll take on trade of the day after this. I've noticed metals doing well. Gold has obviously been performing well for a while. Let me get this. Got bad connection here. Not sure why. Everything seems to be fine. Let me see. Hopefully this comes back on. Am I getting rugged? Right, let's see. This should work now. There we go. We're back. Perfect. So gold and silver and basically metals, palladium, a bunch of the other ones. I'm going to look at them here because we're seeing this. Silver. I wonder, should I? No, I'll do percentage. Silver's been flying at the moment. Palladium. Copper. What else? That's probably enough. So I want to zoom out on these. Let's go to a weekly chart, because you're starting to see, especially on the lower time frames, obviously copper lagging the most, but you're starting to see all of these metals move together, or sorry, palladium lagging the most. You're starting to see all of these metals moving together. And I want to look at the last time that we had a broad metals rally. So Copper breaking out. Gold already obviously at all-time highs. Silver breaking out of a lengthy consolidation as well. And we had the same in 2020, right? But 2020 was a bit of an anomaly because it was sort of just everything went up post-COVID. So I don't think that's the best analogy because we don't really have, the same conditions as COVID or mass money printing. But we have seen periods in the past. I'm trying to find some when crypto existed. Because the assumption would be that a broad rally across metals, like you can see here, let's say from December 2016 right through into 2017, that was also aligned with crypto bull market. We had 2019, Palladium was doing its own thing. It went a fucking crazy run. And then into 2020. Yeah, there's maybe not enough data. Because you go back pre-crypto, or when crypto was very, very, very new. After the 08 crisis, you got this extended, bullish trend across the metals, especially gold. And we obviously had the commodity super cycle in the early 2000s, where everything just went fucking insane. And why does this matter? Well, first of all, it'd be a sign of inflation. So it's interesting that these are all moving. Let me take off Palladium. We'll just look at these three. We'll go to a daily. And we'll look at the lower time frame. It's interesting that they're all moving. So this year, if we go to 2024, this year silver's up 33%, copper's up 29%, gold's up 18%. And that's going to be inflationary, right? If it continues, it's obviously going to be inflationary. Silver's used in industrial, copper's used massively in industrial. If the price of those things are going up, the price of the end result, right? That's the raw material that goes into a lot of electronics or into, like, copper's in every fucking cable. So all the construction industry, everything that's built, all electric wiring, cabling. If the raw material goes up, then the end product will go up, and that will lead to higher prices. So is it going to be a sustained inflationary impulse, or is it going to be a short-lived thing? I think when you look at them individually, you can see more clearly what's actually going on. Like, let's go to monthly charts, and we'll look at gold. Just is absolutely maybe one of the best charts in the world. It is the best chart. That is probably the best chart I've seen in fucking ages. Breaking out of a 4-year, almost 4-year, 3.5-year consolidation at the highs after a 13-year consolidation from its last run, right? So gold had its major bull market from 01 until 2011, so basically a 10-year bull market. Then a 12-year consolidation where a sell-off back to the highs, didn't break out, so it wasn't a trend, consolidated up at the top, and is now breaking out from that. Like, that's, your targets for gold there have got to be 3,000, right? Just based purely on technicals. But it shouldn't end after 3 months. Gold will probably keep going now for quite a while. Silver had such a nice setup. It's a shame I don't trade it. But I think we did this on Altcoin Request stream one time, or I did it on one of the videos, because I had all this drawn before, and I drew it back over here where silver had broken this downtrend line. It was consolidating above a key level. I think that's a monthly level maybe that I'd marked from before. And consolidated there, and then broke from that, and then broke again. And once it started to break out here, trending up. So like silver's heading for probably a crack at all-time highs, I would guess. And, the setup is absolutely perfect on silver. And silver's like considered generally beta to gold. More than anything, metals are anti-fiat. Like precious metal, like silver, gold. You look at copper's an industrial, you look at palladium, these are not things that people invest in as an alternative to gold or silver, an alternative to fiat. Silver and gold are. Silver and gold are the original Bitcoin, right? Because before crypto existed, what did people want to do when they were dissatisfied with the fiat money printing and all that? They buy silver and gold. So I don't view these, even though silver is used in industrials and even though gold is used for jewelry, my frame of logic has always been people buy these when they don't trust how the financial system is moving. So they're expecting debasement. That'd be my opinion. I think they're hedging people like this extended correction and breakout is hedging against the next wave of fiat debasement. So obviously COVID crash and then silver ripped up 150% because of what? Money printing, right? Then it topped out way before most, topped out before gold, topped out before crypto for sure. But then it went into a nice 4 year, 3.5, 4 year consolidation. And it's breaking out now, right when what? Right when the expectation of new waves of stimulus across the world. Because you see the Fed talking about cutting rates, they're easing back on QT. And so to me, this is probably pointing to the future where we do see more government spending and more central bank money printing. That as a secular trend, so if you're looking at a high time frame trend, that's bullish for crypto. As crypto and metals, especially silver and gold, should probably trade relatively close to each other. So that's silver and gold. That's a bit of a random one for daily levels, but I just saw it on my Twitter feed earlier. I saw like a comparison of a bunch of metals, and it's interesting how they're breaking out. As for crypto itself, I think weekly charts and Sol and BTC remain the strongest. Sol had a really good weekly close, and I think now this sets it up nicely for either a continuation or consolidation up here. If you remember the last couple of weeks, I talked about whenever it was like this structurally, that's a potentially bearish structure, right? Where it impulses down, consolidates sideways, is not able to go back up, and then consolidates again, still bearish potentially, still bearish potentially, still bearish potentially, still. It needs a close above 160, and then we got that. So boom, over 160, closes, here we are. That doesn't necessarily mean it's just going to rip straight away and new all-time highs, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not saying that has to happen either. I think a lot of these are going to move probably more in a sideways fashion and then a breakout. Similar to, where's a good example of, I think there's an example in Total 3, when you have a sell-off mid-bull run and then you sort of grind higher before a breakout. Where was it? You have a couple of examples here. Not saying that this is how the chart is right now, because obviously it's much, much higher than that. But when you get these type of sell-off moves, mid-bull, like this, sell-off, and see the way it just goes sideways for 10 or 11 weeks, as soon as it breaks from that, new trend begins, right? And I think you can see over here in 2018, it might be easier to look at 2017, might be easier to look at just the Ethereum chart for this one. But you have the run up, you have the sell off, you consolidate, consolidate, consolidate. Once it starts to break from that consolidation, boom, away it goes again. If I look at ETH from 2017, you might be able to see it. Yeah, ETH runs up, has a big sell off on the weekly chart, is able to hold it, consolidate, breaks out, away it goes. A lot of these are setting up just the same. And on one hand, that's bullish, right? If you compare ETH to Sol, and I know a lot of people compare Ethereum of this cycle, or Sol of this cycle, to Ethereum of last cycle, because in terms of the adoption curve, it's similar. That is true. But if you look at it like this, let me get a fresh Sol chart. A lot of people are looking at it like this here, right? But really, that's what this was, if anything. And so that would mean that we've had this push up, we've had that push up on Ethereum, we've had the sell off, we've had the sell off. Now, Solana's pushing higher, but if that structure's the same, which you better not hope, you better hope it's not, that's one more push coming on Solana, and then it's done, right? If you're following that structure. Now it's funny because people always want to follow these fractals and structures until it doesn't agree with their bias. But that's your expectation. Now, should that make you bearish, Sol? No. In fact, you should be buying the next dip. But if and when it makes a new high, you should be watching for a false breakout. If it does come back inside, just understand that that's Solana losing momentum right at its all-time high. I'll have to get a fresh chart here that has the full price history. But Solana could very easily come up to all-time high, double top it, and that's it, right? As everyone's getting themselves aggressively long Sol, expecting a big run. The alternative to that, which is what I think you want to see, is probably a bit slower, and it takes another couple of weeks. I don't think this is going to happen necessarily because you don't tend to get what you want to see. But the most bullish thing for a big move, a big price move, the most bullish thing would be more consolidation. As it always is, cause and effect. So if it rejects the highs this time, comes back just for one more sweep, and then goes. It doesn't have to look, and by the way, I've shown these charts now for a few weeks. If you remember, I showed it on Chainlink charts in the past. I showed it on Akash as well. This is what I want to see on AKT. The most bullish thing you could see would be a rejection of the highs on alts. A bit like Ethereum, September 17, and just more consolidation. It builds a bigger base. It allows a longer consolidation, a longer accumulation, and it can give you a bigger move. Now, the move will not be a long move. November until January. This is still just 6 weeks. You're not going to get months and months and months and months of bull run if this breaks out from here, within the next 6 weeks or whatever, 2 or 3 months. But you are going to probably get a bigger price move. That's where you could get a massive price move. So we'll see. It's and of course it could be something entirely different. But this isn't based on let's not look at like past fractals. Just look at consolidation on the weekly bands. AKT, the one I'm looking at, still my pick for the AI coins. I think it's the best AI chart in crypto by far. It's done this lovely bowl shape, rounded out bottom, rallied up, consolidating below these levels. I think the longer it consolidates there, the better. This whole thing is basically a big box, as Professor Ayush would mark it. And I think that AKT continuing to consolidate up in this area, which for me is just holding the weekly bands, whether it's the purple path or the green path, holding above the weekly bands. The real level to clear is 630. I don't think this is going to provide any resistance because it's found strong resistance below the all-time high. I think that consolidation will take it into a breakout, and from there you're probably looking at maybe even estimation of all-time high moves. You can use a fib as one example. You could look at I would look at just a 2. Move to the 2. It's already on it, sorry. There we are, 2. Potentially that, your $16 level. And maybe a 1.5 is good too, to have a view in between. These are like your blow off top targets, right? Just as a starting point for AKT. But again, it has to build. It has to build a base, and you have to be mindful that if it pushes above all-time high, comes back below, that's probably it. I don't think you should trust any coin that fails a breakout of all-time high. Historically, that is a bad sign, and you don't want to be trapping yourself into, hoping that it goes back up. You want to be trading the stuff that's moving cleanly, moving clearly, and sticking with that. So, one thing I actually didn't cover on Weekly Outlook, which I want to cover now, is data at events coming up this week. What have we got? A couple FOMC members speaking. FOMC meeting minutes, won't be a big deal. Manufacturing PMIs and consumer sentiment revised. Nothing big, nothing much this week on that. So that's it. GM. See you later on the live stream. 2 today, 5 p.m. UTC. No, 4 p.m. and 6 p.m.